You think you know Night of the Living Dead? Well, here's some things you may not have known about the grandfather of all zombie movies.
Consistent reports from witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Originally, the film was almost called Night of the Flesh Eaters. After receiving a litigation from the producers of the 1968 horror film The Flesh Eaters, the title was changed. George Romero favored the new tag, Night of Anubis. In the ancient Egyptian religion, Anubis was the god of embalming and mummifying. Fearing that only some would understand the reference, Night of the Living Dead was selected by the film's exhibitor, Continental Distributing, which made the most sense for the cult classic.
He'll hear you.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
Johnny.
As part of the film's publicity, fake life insurance policies were issued to attendees of the horror flick. They offered $50,000 to any audience member that were frightened to death. Luckily, nobody was awarded the policy prize. The film might be known for its bloody flesh eaters, but the word zombie is never used. Throughout the hour-and-a-half feature, the most common phrase to describe the living dead is those things or ghouls.
I realized that I was alone with 50 or 60 of those things, just standing there, staring at me.
The word zombie may not be uttered, but Night of the Living Dead created common characteristics we still see in zombie films, some of which include headshots, flesh eating, and making the creatures move very slow. We're all aware of the infamous headshot one must accomplish in order to destroy a zombie. Before they came up with this idea, George Romero and John Russo were attempting to find a way to kill the creatures in their script. Jokingly, Marilyn Eastman, who plays Helen Cooper in the film, stated that their demise should come from pies smushed in their faces. Clearly, her original idea did not make it into the movie, but was an inspiration for a particular scene in the sequel. In the 1978 movie Dawn of the Dead, George added a pie fight scene in order to keep Marilyn's original idea alive. Since the film was shot in black and white, they needed to find a product that was dark enough to look like blood. By using Bosco chocolate syrup, it gave audiences the gruesome effect of gore in the colorless film. As for the cannibalistic parts, filmmakers made their extras eat roasted ham covered in chocolate syrup. Needless to say, the paleness of the zombies did not need to be added by the makeup artists. Their actors were nauseously white due to the odd combination. Night of the Living Dead may be one of the most successful independent films ever made, but it wasn't originally received as such. The film's world premiere was on October 1st, 1976, at the Fulton Theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The movie started at 8 p.m. and admission was by invitation only. Roger Ebert was angry that theater owners would admit children to see the film, saying, quote, "The kids in the audience were stunned. There was almost complete silence. The movie had stopped being delightfully scary about halfway through and had become unexpectedly terrifying." It wasn't until a year later that the film started becoming popular. Originally, only Columbia Pictures was interested in distributing the film. However, the major Hollywood studio passed because it was in black and white. At this time, color televisions were becoming more popular, and the studio did not believe the film's lack of color would do well in theaters. Years later, Columbia Pictures did distribute the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead, complete with color. Music for the film was from a stock library at Capitol Records. Since the copyright was in public domain, some of the music you hear also appears in other films. They include Teenagers from Outer Space, The Hideous Sun Demon, The Fugitive, and The Lone Ranger. The music only cost producers $1,500 to use in the film. And here's a bonus one. Award-winning special effects makeup artist Tom Savini was originally hired to do the Dead's makeup in the film. However, Tom ended up not being able to do the special effects for the film. He was called to duty by the U.S. Army to serve as a combat photographer in Vietnam. George Romero and Tom Savini did eventually get to collaborate on Romero's Martin and Dawn of the Dead, as well as the Night of the Living Dead remake, which Savini directed.
Let's get out of here. Come on, come on.
My jacket's gone.
That's it for this episode of You Think You Know Movies. Make sure to subscribe, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and get the latest movie and TV news on ScreenCrush.com.